All right, guys. So let's talk about the thing that's on everyone's minds today, which is the Indy 5 failure at
I
its
was still thinking
premiere.
about Brian's boobs.
Oh, well, everyone thinks about that, but we got to take a break every once in a while. So basically, Indiana Jones 5 premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in France. And the reviews have been coming out, and it is not good, guys. This is turning out to be a
Like the
small disaster.
lukewarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to address this because not to humble brag or anything, but I've been to the Cannes Film Festival twice. The first time was in 2004 when I premiered my movie with Jeremy Renner there, and the second time I was there when Revenge of the Sith premiered. And when you see a headline like this where it says gets a lukewarm 5-minute standing ovation, so the same thing happened when I was there and they premiered Revenge of the Sith. Like there was a lot of kind of like hype leading up to that movie that George Lucas got better writers and it was going to be like the best of like the sequel trilogy and all this other stuff. He had rented out like the Queen Mary to like throw all these like, kind of like hypey pre-premiere parties and stuff like that. And I was able to go and watch the Cannes premiere of Revenge of the Sith. And at the beginning of, before the movie started, there was like a lot of excitement in the air and people were really excited to get to see the final chapter of the prequel trilogy and stuff like that. And then by the end of the movie, it was kind of like a Jeb Bush moment. It's like, please clap. And you have like this standing ovation for the movie where it's kind of like a half-assed one where people are like, this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. So we're going to do it just to be respectful. And so like, that's what I read this as, is that the standing ovation that Variety reported about was kind of like, the obligatory standing ovation. Like obviously they gave Harrison Ford a lot of props right up front, but then like as soon as the credit rolled, everyone was like, wow, that was really long and boring and I hated it. So this is Variety. Variety didn't spend a whole lot of time on the movie. They kind of focused mostly on Harrison Ford and his final bow as Indiana Jones. But the stuff that they did talk about with the movie was not very good. So like, I also found it interesting that Disney is developing an Indiana Jones series for Disney Plus that they noted here. And that this movie was not directed by Steven Spielberg, something that James Mangold did not like when I tweeted that little fact. But if we go to the Hollywood Reporter, so the Hollywood Reporter actually did an actual review of the movie. And this review is one of the most scathing reviews I've seen from the Hollywood Reporter for any Disney Lucasfilm project.
Before you get to the review, I just want to say I had heard that, and I could be wrong about this, but somebody had told me that the reason they were probably giving it a 5-minute standing ovation is that at the end of the movie during the credits, it's like a greatest hits of Indiana Jones over the credits. So like, if you ever seen like Freddy's Dead, where they have like all the scenes from all the earlier films and stuff, it's similar to that from what I've heard. So that might even be part of the reason why they were clapping more so. They're like, oh, some scenes from a good movie.
Maybe it's more likely that they were clapping because they could finally leave the theater.
That too.
I read on one of these reviews that a 5-minute standing ovation at the end of basically any movie at Cannes is just kind of a
typical
and an obligatory, hey, good job for making a movie that we can watch.
Well,
and I'm sure the credits were longer than that too.
There are certain movies at Cannes that get like a genuine response, but it feels like this was kind of one of their marquee premieres, and so the people in attendance were probably all industry people who just felt the need to do some fan service for Disney. But here's some of the highlights from the actual like Hollywood Reporter review that I wanted to cover. Basically, the movie felt like it was written by committee. The only really good, genuine moment happens about an hour and 20 minutes into the bloated 2.5-hour runtime. The nonstop pacing might sound ideal, but it's mostly an exhausting slog. That means that this is a full-out slaction movie, which are boring action movies. Part of what dims the enjoyment of this concluding chapter is just how glaringly fake so much of it looks. They said that the special effects were just so in your face and not very well done that it took people out of the movie. Another problem was a tendency to overcomplicate everything, and that the climax was kind of messy. Mangold goes
I believe that's a result of reshoots. Sorry, man.
Probably. Mangold goes from one set piece to another without much connective tissue. By that time, you've likely given up following the contorted plot mechanics and just be zoning in and out with each new location. So, like, apparently they jump to a bunch of locations in the movie, just from one set piece to another. I found this line kind of funny. A bunch of outsized CG eels are so sloppily rendered that Disney can relax about any Little Mermaid sniping. Sadly, none of this amounts to much more than a talented director slumming it with mind-numbingly rote video game plotting. Filling in the plucky sidekick spot, Isidore's Teddy is well, let's just say he's no short round, leave it at that. This is a big, bombastic movie that goes through the motions but never finds much joy in the process. Ford often seems disengaged, as if he's weighing up whether this will restore the tarnished luster to this iconic action hero or reveal that he's past his expiration date. Both the actor and the audience get a raw deal with this empty exercise in brand redemption. So, guys, from an industry rag like The Hollywood Reporter, which is usually very shilly, this type of review is so telling. Like this movie was not good. And the fact that the Hollywood Reporter and Variety are reporting on the lack of audience engagement in this thing is very telling. And then we go to the Rotten Tomatoes score. We've got 29 reviews so far. It's at a 52%, so it's rotten. And some of the critics' reviews on this thing, the people who've seen it, are just really, really not complimentary. Now, Primitive, I know that you released a video on your channel this morning about this in particular. It was a very good video. I recommend everyone go check out his channel and watch it. But you read through some of these Rotten Tomato reviews. So, like, what's your take on Indy 5?
It's one of those films I'm not expecting anything out of. I don't think I had any hope for it in the first place. But I think the reviews we've been getting on Rotten Tomatoes, generally, the way you sort of read it is, they'll say it's bad, but I think when they go that route, it's probably means it's even worse. I have got a feeling it's going to be like really a frustrating film to actually get through, just like in terms when it comes to actually breaking it down. I think you're just going to have issue after issue. Even the Hollywood Reporter review, it just seems like, it's just here's a thing, and that seems to be just like the entire movie. Where what you could have done is something like Indy reunites with Short Round or something like that, and I don't know, you go to they go and find Atlantis or something like that, but instead they've went clearly they haven't had a lot of ideas if they've just went for time travel. That's the thing that will get everybody in the doors. But yeah, I don't expect it to be sort of good in the slightest. And you've even had IGN. I'll just pull that up. Even them, like they tend to be, when it comes to a lot of films, they're very positive about stuff. And even IGN is saying we didn't realize how good we had it with Kingdom of Crystal Skull.
Oh my god!
So
what movie is that? I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of that movie.
That's
I just remember something with a fridge. That's about it.
Yeah, but this is coming in. This is the longest Indiana Jones movie ever. It's 2.5 hours long. But people say that basically it gets boring really quick, even though it's nonstop action. Brian from the Popcast.
Yes.
So we're all Indiana Jones fans here.
Yeah.
You would think that a 2.5 hour indie movie would be like a dream come true, but
yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. So what's your take on this? Do you think that this is a pretense to basically a huge failure for Lucasfilm and Disney?
I mean, it's possible, but better question is, is it just boring, or were certain critics and source rumor hunters correct, and Phoebe, whatever Fleabag chick, takes over the role? Like that footage at the end where it's showing, like they said, there's a bunch of footage of his greatest hits, right? Is that showing what someone said months ago, that when that happens, that's because Phoebe Wallace, whatever, Fleabag, is replacing Indiana Jones in all those scenes? I don't know. I read the script. The script, unless they changed it, it's possible. was pretty good. I mean, I saw some like boring stuff in there. Like I feel like they spent a lot of time. It doesn't matter. The script of what I read might not even be the same thing. But I can definitely see it being boring. But the better question is it boring? And does it tarnish the Indiana Jones franchise, or is it just boring? Like you can have a speed bump and still make a Disney Plus show. But if they go like full on Fleabagging it, then I think that I think it's over. That's the end of the road.
I wanted to ask Primitive, in the UK, how is Phoebe Waller-Bridge viewed? Like, I know that she's like kind of like this critical darling.
She seems to be one of those, you never really hear people talking about her. She's not really one of those what comes up in a conversation of, into a lot of positive conversation. But I've never seen a Fleabag show. It's like, I think that got awards, but she seems to be someone that what you may work for, within something like Fleabag, but other films than that I've seen her in, she's not, she doesn't really have a presence, and she's just not likable either. They've just went and got someone else that isn't really likable, from how I've seen her.
Yeah. Matt Vader 74, you went through my Twitter profile yesterday and gleefully retweeted the tweet that started it all.
I did. Yes.
Do you feel like we've been justified because of this?
So I will feel like we've been justified when the audience score is 52%. Now, I honestly don't think the audience score is ever going to be 52% because I think the people who are going to bother to write Indiana Jones reviews are going to be people that are going to be shilling the shit out of this movie. That's just the way it is. There was a super chat that we'll get to in a little bit that asks why we're taking the words of a critic so seriously. And it's not that we're really, I don't feel like we're taking the word of the critic so seriously. I just feel like it's pretty sad when the shill media can't shill your movie. You know what I mean? When the movie's so bad that even the people that are on the payroll can't get it into their hands to write that this movie is good.
Well, you're right, Matt.
So it's just it's an interesting thing, right? I mean, I feel like this thing's probably going to end up like in the 50% for the critics, and it's probably going to be in the mid 70s for the fans. But that's not a good fan score with these kind of movies. The fan score for these kind of movies should be, in the 90s as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know if it's going to get there. And I can't sit here and judge this movie. I haven't seen it. But
you haven't seen it. Yep.
So I'm not going to give it a score. I'm not going to say, oh, this movie sucks or whatever. But everything that I've heard, read, and seen about this movie so far from this Cannes things is that it's another bloated, a Marvel style CGI crap fest of a movie. It's probably got an hour of bloat. It's probably got stuff that they filmed on that stupid volume, which I'm really beginning to dislike. Indiana Jones movies shouldn't be filled with all of these gross, nasty CGI effects. Indiana Jones movies are practical effects. They're high-speed chases. It's the thing where, in the original movie where they did the scene underneath the truck on the high-speed chase across the desert, that was all practical. That all is real, with some matte paintings in the background. These aren't Indiana Jones movies. And I think that's part of the reason why we didn't like the movie that we don't speak of, because there's too much CGI. There's too much bullshit in this movie. It just seems off. And I'm going to go see this movie, but I'm not going to go see this movie because I want to. I kind of feel like I'm going to go see this movie because I have to at this point. And I don't really feel that way about most movies that come out. I don't want to see old Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones. I don't want to see Phoebe Waller bitch, doing her thing. I don't want to see these characters go out. My Indy was done when he chose correctly with the cup. I'm kind of sad about the whole thing, to be perfectly honest with you. So,
but there's good news, man. It's not
hashtag not my Indy, I guess is what I'm.
But it's not over yet. You haven't actually seen it. We haven't seen it.
I don't have a lot of faith, man. I don't have a lot of faith.
Sure, that's fine. But like to the chat though, make sure don't make a judgment call on something you haven't seen before you've seen it. Now you can have your opinion and be like, hey, it's looking like it's not gonna be good, but we don't know yet, man. We know, and you can like it. Maybe it's slow and you like it. Like I said, like if it's slow and boring, that's one thing. But if they like replace Indy, I don't think anyone can get behind that.
I'll tell you this much before we go to Tom. Directors have a very important role in these movies, and this is the only Indy film ever to be not directed by Steven Spielberg. Right. And say what you will about the supposed fourth movie, that was mostly a Lucas thing, but Steven Spielberg as a director is very talented. He kind of has this innate sense of like what makes a good story, what makes a fun blockbuster, what makes a popcorn movie. And when you remove him from this equation and you give James Mangold, who's a little bit of a heavier director than Spielberg is, he's not as whimsical, he's not as optimistic, he's not as kind of like positive. And you basically give him free reign to make this big tentpole movie as like the successor to Spielberg. I think his ego is going to make a 2.5 hour movie that's all about like, hey, look at all the awesome action scenes I was able to shoot and de-age Harrison Ford on. And in fact, I haven't forgotten that he called me an ageist for pointing out that Harrison Ford was 78 years old in my tweet. And the guy ended up breaking his shoulder, in production and had to be sidelined and ended up costing the movie like millions of dollars as they were just sitting there like not able to do anything. So Tom Connors, what's your prediction with this movie? Do you think it's going to be another big kerfluffle for Disney?
Well, this is a bit of a different animal. And going off of what Matt was saying earlier, normally we wouldn't be able to trust a critic on these sorts of things, but I think this is comparable to Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Even the critics knew in that sense they couldn't hedge their, reviews bad enough to be like, this is like a bad thing. And then by the end of the show, they're like, yeah, this thing's horrible. I think this is another one of those cases because we know from all the leaks, they've been proven true through all the trailers and everything else. And the reviews have now also solidified those things. So as far as the audience like us, the nerdy nerd fans, we already know what we're getting into. I think the bigger issue here is the general audience. And Indiana Jones is a bit different than Star Wars. There's a little bit of crossover, but you're pretty much looking at that crossover, right? Other than that, Indiana Jones has an audience that's closer to like what Top Gun Maverick would have been. So I have a feeling this is going to have a very big opening. It's going to probably open somewhere close to $200 million. Now, is it going to have staying power? I don't think so. Because from everything we've seen, it's basically just Fleabag taking over for Harrison Ford throughout the film. In fact, a lot of the reviews say it feels like that's what it's leading up to, only that's not how it ends. And that to me tells me that's probably how it originally ended. But when they knew they got busted, they went back and reshot it. So at this point, I have zero faith in the film, but I also know how the general public is. So they might get lucky that opening weekend, but I think it's going to fall off a cliff after that.
Hey guys, if you could do me a quick favor, if you like this episode and it tickles your fancy or any other episode that we've done in the past, share it on social media and tag us in that post so that we know you're talking about us, and we will immediately jump onto that app and we will respond to your tag. And we can talk about what you like about the episode and possibly talk about something that we might want to cover in the future. And we would love to bring you in our community. We have a wonderful Discord app as well. There's a bunch of people in there that just love chatting with us. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you like this podcast, tag us in that post and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys so much. Back to the podcast.
It's kind of weird for me personally because I love Indiana Jones. It's one of my favorite film franchises of all time. I'm a huge Spielberg shill. I grew up watching these adventure movies. They kind of formed my idea of what a good action adventure film is, and I want Indiana Jones 5 to be good, but all the signs are pointing towards it just not being good, right? I can remember when the fourth movie came out, I was so excited to go see it in the theater, and then I walked out of the theater like, what the fuck did I just watch? And so I think a lot of people are looking at Indy 5 from that lens where it's like, well, the fourth one wasn't very good. And the more I learn about this, it's like even like the main MacGuffin, like they pull a bait and switch according to the Hollywood Reporter thing where they're talking about the spear that pierced the side of Christ. And in the movie, they set that up to be like the object that they're going after, but then they switch it to this Dial of Destiny thing, which can track down fissures in time. And I always feel like Indy is at its best when it's dealing with religious mythology as opposed to science fiction stuff, because it seems more kind of like grounded in humanity, I think, rather than the fantastical. And the Raider or the Holy Grail movie. I'm blanking on the name of it. It was Indiana Jones
Last
and
Crusade.
the Last Crusade. Thank you. Like that movie was such a great ending to the series, right? Like Indy comes to grips with his father. Him and his friends all ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful ending for that. And then Crystal Skull comes around and kind of
sculpts it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But at least at the end of that movie, we got Indy marrying Miriam. We have Indy with a son who is set to kind of like take up the mantle of his father. There was a lot of kind of hopeful things in that movie. And apparently this movie just undoes all that. Indy is like a kind of like a washed up professor. He's divorced, no mention of Mutt whatsoever. Instead, Mutt is replaced by his goddaughter, who's Phoebe Waller bitch. And so like everything I'm seeing from this movie just feels wrong to me. And the idea that it's just one set piece after another seems to track, because I feel like that's kind of like Kathleen Kennedy's thing, where she's like, put more action in it, or what have you. And without Spielberg or Lucas there to kind of like collaborate and guide this thing, I just feel like it's going to be a complete mess. Now, Vader, one of your all-time 5-star movies is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's my number one movie of all time.
Yeah.
It's my number one movie.
So knowing that this is a film without Spielberg's influence, and this is Kathleen Kennedy's fingers all over it, that we got the egomaniac James Mangold directing this thing, do you have any hope that this is going to bring the franchise that we both love so much to a satisfying end?
No, my Indy finished with Last Crusade, and that's just kind of where I'm going to stick it. I mean, it is what it is, man. I mean, I feel like at the end of this, we're just going to have 2 movies that we never speak of, and we'll call it good. So I just want this cycle to be done and over with. I want us to have some fun with it. It's like I said before, I want this movie. I wanted this movie to be good, right? I have no faith that it is. When the shill media can't even admit that there's good stuff in this, it's telling. It's telling. And that's that, man. And to answer your question, no, I have no faith that this is going to be good. And I'll just stick to the original trilogy, I guess. The original 3 that were the real Indiana Jones movies.
So we kind of talked a little bit about Kathleen Kennedy and her involvement in this. And Tom, there was a rumor here that basically Kathleen Kennedy, she wanted to retire, and she was going to wait until Indiana Jones came out and was a huge box office hit and kind of go out on a high note. Do you think that there's any truth to that, or is she still just going to be in there ruining every franchise that Lucasfilm has? Tom, you there?
I'm sorry. What was the question? My bad.
It's okay. So we were talking about Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes.
And basically there was a rumor out there that she was planning to retire as CEO of Lucasfilm after Indiana Jones 5 came out and was a big box office hit. And she was kind of going to go out on top with like this franchise that she'd been a part of since the beginning. But do you think that there's any truth to that rumor? And if this thing bombs, do you think that she'll still retire, or is she just so entrenched in there that she's never going anywhere?
I don't think she's going anywhere until she absolutely has to at this point. She could very well retire after Indiana Jones just because it'd be a button to her career. And I mean, as long as it makes more than probably $500 million at the box office, even though that wouldn't be profitable, she'll probably see that as a win of some sorts. But at the end of the day, why would she? And why would they? I mean, we see the problems. Other people see the problems. but I constantly have to remind people of who Kathleen Kennedy is and how powerful she is. People don't realize that. I mean, Alex Kurtzman's not even on the same map as her as far as power, and we can't even get rid of him. So, like, I mean, and that's the thing. It's just one of those things where they're never going to put her in a position where she's going to look bad. She's going to leave on her own accord, unless she dies while doing the job. That's the only way it's going to happen, is when she goes out on this high note the way she wants to. Yes, she's been getting a lot of awards and accolades lately, which is kind of a sign that may be something on the horizon, and she's no spring chicken. I mean, just watching the interviews there, I mean,
That's true.
You can see the age starting to show through, and Frank looks like he don't even know where the fuck he's at most of the time there. So, like, at this point, I don't think there's too many years left in her.
That's true. Brian, one of the things that really bothered me when I was watching the movie that shall not be named in the theaters was just how old Harrison Ford felt in that movie. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like it was stretching believability that 60-something-year-old Harrison Ford would be, running around doing all these like fights and adventures and stuff like that. Harrison Ford's now pushing 80 in this movie.
Oh my God.
And apparently he doesn't do anything to hide the fact that he's old in this film. Do you think that that's going to take audiences out a lot of the stuff, just like how old Harrison Ford is? Because we all love Harrison Ford, but at a certain point you have to be like, okay, like, you need to take like a little bit less active of a role.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I remember when we were looking at the behind the scenes photos of the set when they were filming, I saw like 19 stuntmen in the fedora, whatever, and the bomber jacket. And you're like, is that a normal amount of stuntmen for the main character? You got to ask yourself. Like, minimum of baker's dozen, right? I don't think you need that many stuntmen, but you would need that many stuntmen when literally he can't act any of his action sequences. It's got to be someone else. He's old. It's not his fault he's old. It's not ageist to point it out that he's old. He's old. That's it. He should be off making Lifetime movies or something dramatic that doesn't require a lot of moving. Not hanging from the back of a car arguing with some British chick about what relic she stole that day. I don't. So it's definitely going to feel off, but it felt off with the Crystal Skull too. The one possible redeemer of feeling that in Crystal Skull would have been Mud.
But
they didn't give him a shot to actually like take center stage. So
also, I think Shia LaBeouf is kind of persona non grata in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, you're right. But even in his own movie, like even in Crystal Skull, they didn't give him a lot of room to like take the action, to take spotlight. So like, I don't know. They're putting too much. We need him to start doing what Picard does, and Patrick Stewart, and just sort of order other people to do things.
Well, it's not like he can't act. He's still out there if he plays appropriate roles. He's great in that 1923 show.
He is great. He just looks very frail in Indiana Jones. That's all I'm saying.
It's just I don't want to see 80-year-olds swinging on vines and jumping forth between cars and high-speed chases. It's not accurate. I can only suspend so much belief, and just it is what it is, man. This movie is it's going to be an experience. I have a feeling, and I guess we'll see where it goes. So.
Like Matt said, 15 years ago, I was already having an issue with Crystal Skull and believing the shit that he was doing. Right. Yeah. And I've seen enough of the trailers and clips now to go like, this looks fake as hell. I don't buy it. And the irony of ironies, like Matt said, they even have this big, huge opening sequence, which it's Harrison Ford de-aged through the whole thing. So that even goes to Matt's point that you can't really get away with having a 70-year-old plus guy do this stuff through the whole movie. It's another reason why I have issues with the whole Flash movie too, is like, you've got Michael Keaton, who's now 60 plus, and he's moving more fluently than he ever did in the original 1989 Batman. You have the same problem here. You've got Harrison Ford doing shit he could never have done in the earlier films. The appeal of the first 3 films was seeing these set pieces and knowing that these are stuntmen pulling this off, right? Like, that's a real guy being drugged behind that, Jeep or whatever it was in the first movie. And he, those are real explosions. Those are real car crashes. They're really pulling this stuff off. In Crystal Skull in this, it's all CGI bullshit. We know it. And you can't trick us anymore. We've come to a point where we've gotten so attuned to it that unless you really, really try hard, you can't trick the audience anymore. They know it's CGI. It's even movies like Fast and the Furious have gone to the point where they're so off the, to speak of movies that just come out,
don't get me started on that movie. I went and saw it last night. Primitive. So Lucasfilm has done a great job of taking all of its billion-dollar franchises and kind of running them into the ground. So it starts with Star Wars. Then you had Willow, which they pretty much destroyed. And now you have Indiana Jones. They don't really have anything else now that they've gone through all their 3 big franchises. But one of the things that I found interesting was this idea that they're developing a Indiana Jones show for Disney Plus. Now, Harrison Ford has been very public about him not wanting anyone else to play the role. So there's been speculation that it's going to be about his mentor Ravenwood, Miriam's father, or something along those lines. So I want to get your take on this. Like, if Lucasfilm does choose to go forward with an Indiana Jones show for Disney Plus, how do you think that the performance of
I thought that already got
crap?
I thought that already got canned.
It mentioned it in the Hollywood Reporter article, so obviously there's still some movement on it.
I did think that, did it not come out that Bob Iger told Lucasfilm just to focus on Star Wars? That's why I thought that show wasn't going to happen anyway, the Indiana Jones show, because I'm pretty sure that did come out.
I do remember hearing something like that, yeah.
But yeah, again, I think it's pretty obvious the way most of these Disney Plus shows are going to go. So, I wouldn't really expect it to do well, even if people respond to this film well. I don't really necessarily think it's going to sort of translate into like a Disney Plus show. And I don't expect a Disney Plus show to be any good anyway. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting if they do decide to do it anyway. But yeah, I wouldn't expect anything out of it.
All right. Well, before we move on to talking about other Disney Plus stuff, let's hit up some super chats real quick. We got a super chat from Dennis Wright for $19.99. Wrong one.
What? Oh, shit. There you go.
All right. Dennis Wright for $19.99. Okay. Got to defend Kansas. Far West Kansas is flat like the reaction to the new Indiana Jones movie. Eastern Kansas is hilly and has actual trees, a lot of deer and coyotes. Wish we had buffalo everywhere, but only in limited areas. Then
Flat.
We've got flat. We've got I'm just gonna do it. We got Channel Starface for $5. Why are you guys, and me too for that matter, taking these reviews more seriously than other critic reviews for past movies? We're really not. Like, the thing that surprises us about these critic reviews, at least I'm speaking for myself, is that the access media, especially these industry things like Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they are not in the business of being critical of major studio tentpole movies. And when they come out en masse and unanimously report negative aspects of a major blockbuster tentpole film, summer film, especially from a legacy franchise like something like Indiana Jones, when that happens, it's so counter to the normal behavior of these media outlets, because they're all in bed together, right? Like, they're in the business of propping up bullshit. Like, we've seen it time and time again with Star Wars. How many of these access media outlets have propped up bad Star Wars because they're in the pocket of Disney and Lucasfilm and all this stuff? And for them to come out and report on the lacklusterness of the new Indiana Jones 5 movie, like, especially like when they're extolling like Phoebe Waller-Bridge and feminism and all this stuff, that tells us something, right? Like, it's not so much that the reviews for Indiana Jones are bad, it's that the people who are saying it's bad aren't in the business of doing that. And that tells us a lot of stuff. Tom, what do you think that signals?
When the media can't even hide this crap,
Yeah.
or well, and like I said, that's more like the Lord of the Rings thing. They can't even hedge it because they know they're going to get called out on it. There's only so long you can say, it's like you take a bite of something and it's spoiled or not any good, and you're like, oh, this is wonderful, this is great. Here, have some. There's only so many people you can say that to before somebody goes, this tastes like ass, man.
Yeah.
And eventually they're going to call you out on your BS. And I mean, this is another one of those. What's funny about this is I'm sitting kicking back and looking at this Indiana Jones thing. And one of my more popular tweets in the last few months has been that when Ke Huy Quan won the Academy Award, and him and Harrison Ford were embraced in a hug. And I said, this is what Indiana Jones 5 should have been. And really, that's what everybody wants, is him and like Sala or somebody like that to be on one final adventure. We don't care about any new characters. We don't need new diversity hire kid. We don't need Fleabag, because she's actually some grandkid or daughter of some character we've never even met before who's in the intro, right? So again, no real reason for them to be there. They have no attachment to, and we were actually under the impression that they were related to Marcus from before, but that turned out not to be the case. And so here we are with two characters we don't give a crap about, and they could have been two that we do care about. At the end of the day, nothing about this movie sounds like it's any good. So even the critics can't, through the diversity points that it has, they can't even give it a good rating. That should tell you something.
I mean, this is an industry that still has Obi-Wan Kenobi at 82%.
Right. That's my point. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so Channel Starface, that's one of the reasons why we're taking these reviews a little bit more seriously, is because it seems like for once the access media is actually being honest about one of these Disney Lucasfilm films instead of running cover for them. Real quick, Dustin Cole for $10. They should have done The Fountain of Youth and just replaced Harrison Ford with a younger actor at the end of the movie. But oh no, we have to be progressive and have a woke woman, so there's no hope. That's actually a pretty good idea. I know Anthony Ingruber does a great Harrison Ford impression.
He's half right, he's half wrong. Nobody can play Indy but Harrison Ford. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
I don't know. Sean Patrick Flannery did a pretty good job in Indiana Jones Chronicles.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Let it go.
Hey guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and comment below on your favorite video as well. That goes a long way with helping us boost our channel and get out there in front of more people. And it lets YouTube know that we're doing something right. And if you want to catch us live, we go live 2 times a week, once on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time and on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So join us there in the chat. We will see you on the live stream. Stay salty.